In this video clip, I'm going to look at the grouping of compound time. So the first thing that you need to realize is that there's a big difference between compound time and simple time. So in simple time, beat value can always be divided into two or subdivided into 2 units and then into 4. And when it gets to compound time, our beat is divided into 3. Okay, so that is the main difference between our compound and our simple time beat values. So when I did the video on simple time, I said I'm going to show you in this video how I'm going to apply the same rules that we used in simple time also in compound time. So let's just have a look at it. So if we look at the grouping of beat 1 and 2, or 2 and 3, and 3 and 4, we can still group them together. But in compound time, we're only allowed to group them together if they consist of one note. So if they are split up into different notes, then we have to group according to separate beats. Okay, so very important, we can only apply it when it gets to one long note value that covers that, the whole 2 beats. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the subdivision of beats. And I just want to quickly go back to how time signatures work and make sure that your learners actually know the difference. For example, between 3/4 and 6/8. Okay, so I did this on the board. So you know this is a compound time signature. If you can divide the top number into 3 and the bottom one into 2, and if you do that, you actually get the number of beats in a bar. Okay, remember simple time is simple. 3/4 means that you have 3 crotchet beats in a bar. 6/8, the only thing that you get out of that is that the total of the bar will add up to 6 quavers. Okay, it doesn't tell you anything about the time signature, and that's why you need to do this calculation. Okay, you're going to use the same calculation for all your compound time signatures. Okay, so you divide the top number by 3, bottom one by 2, you're going to get to 2/4 here. And the meaning of that is that you're going to have 2, not just 2 crotchet beats in a bar, but you have 2 dotted crotchet beats in a bar. Okay, and that's what you're going to do with all your compound time signatures. You can see here, I did another one just as an example. So 12/16, if you divide 3 by 3 and 2, you're going to get to 4 dotted quaver beats in a bar. Okay, so that is basically just something about your time signatures and the duality thereof. I will just quickly go back to duality of time signatures in a moment. Now let's have a look at how the grouping of notes within a beat looks. Okay, again, thinking of what we were allowed to do when we had our triple simple time signatures. Okay, so think of your beat in compound time as a mini version of that. Okay, so at the bottom you can see I've got 6/8. You are allowed to group that subdivision 1 and 2. So remember, I can split my beat now into 3. Okay, so that subdivision, these aren't beats. Okay, it's just the principle that I'm applying here. So you're going to tell your learners that you can group the subdivision 1 and 2 together if it's a long note. Okay, of course, I'm going to put that together because a beat value is a dotted crotchet. And I will look at the rest just now. And then here you can also put the subdivision 2 and 3 together. Okay, so I've got 1. Remember now, I'm talking about the subdivision of a beat. I'm not saying these are beats. Okay, just remember that. So I've got subdivision 1, and then I put 2 and 3 together. And then here I also incorporated rest. So let's have a look at rest. Like in simple time, you are always going to have separate rests for your various beats. And like in simple time, the only time that you are allowed to group rests together is if you have a quadruple compound time signature, like for example, 12/16. So if beat 1 and 2 rests, then you are welcome to just combine the rest into one rest. In fact, you have to do it. And then if you have a rest on beat 3 and 4, you can also just group it together, and never when it is quiet on beat 2 and 3. Now let's have a look at the subdivision when it gets to rest. Okay, so here you can see beat 1 is quiet, so it's just a dotted crotchet beat. Of course, there's also the rule that you can have the long rest, let me just start again. So the rest and then the dot written out in the form of another rest. Okay, you can do that, but then you need to do that consistently throughout your music. I would not suggest it because it just adds too much detail if you do it like that, but you can do it like that. Okay, so let's have a look at this bar. So when it gets to the subdivision of your various beats in compound time, the rule is slightly different than what we had with notes when we applied the same simple time signature rule. But if you look at this, if the first and the second subdivision is silent, you can have one rest. But if the second and the third subdivision is silent, then you have to have two separate rests. Okay, so just remember that. So you can still combine there, but you are not allowed to combine over there. And then I'm just going to talk to you about syncopation, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so there was just your subdivision of your beats. So when you work with dotted crotchet beats, you have your subdivision there into 3 quavers, and your semiquavers are together. And yeah, when you get to demi-semiquavers, you can have 3 separate groups, or you can just put them all together. Personally, I would prefer this because it's easier for me to read, but if you know your time signature and you can see 2 long groups of notes, you would know that there are 12 notes there, but it is more difficult to read. Okay, and then if you look at the dotted minute beat, again, you can see that it's the same principles that we have applied. Of course, you can also split that into 3 subdivisions, so 4 semiquavers, 4 semiquavers, and 4 semiquavers. Okay, so let's just quickly have a look at our rests. Syncopation. Okay, so the grouping of syncopated rhythms is simple. Tell your learners this. It's really simple. There's one rule, and that each beat should be visible. Okay, that's it. Okay, and I demonstrated it here. So whatever is, fits into that beat, you just put it together. And you can see it in both those examples. And then the last thing that I would like to get back to is just duality of time. There you go. Okay, so it's it's an important concept that you need to know, and our African rhythms often have duality of time signatures. So it's basically that your simple time and your compound time can run together. And what they would typically ask of your learners in an exam is to demonstrate the duality of your time signatures. And that is that you have to be able to convert any simple time signature into a compound time signature and vice versa. And here you can see how I did that. So the first thing that you need to tell your learners is they need to be aware of the value of a beat. Okay, so in simple time we split into 2, and in compound time we split the beat into 3. So if we look here, I have an example in 3/4. There's my beat 1, beat 2, and beat 3. So now they say rewrite it, demonstrate duality of time signature, and now you have to rewrite it in the equal compound time signature. So of course, all you have to do there is you have to multiply 3 by 3 to get to 9 and 4 by 2 to get to 8. Okay. Now, if you look at this one, this crotchet, it takes up the whole beat. I want you to realize that. So a whole beat in your relevant compound time signature is going to be a dotted note. Okay. Then we look at the second beat. Our second beat is split into 2. So now we sit with a problem, because in compound time, we can't split the beat into 2. The only way we can do that is by actually adding a duplet. Okay, and this is how it works. So if you don't have an irregular note group in your simple time, you're going to create one in compound time. If you do have one in simple time, you're going to just leave it in your compound time signature. And this is exactly what I demonstrated here. So I don't have an irregular note value here, irregular note group here. My beat is split into 2. And here I want to split my beat into 2, but of course, in compound time, my beat is split into 3. So the only way to get exactly the same effect is by putting a duplet there. Then here I've used a triplet. Why? Because naturally our beat does not split into 3 in simple time, and that's why we have a triplet there. But now when we convert to our compound time signature, we simply remove the triplet, because that will automatically convert into a full beat. Okay, and again, these examples come from this book. Okay, and if you're in South Africa, you can actually order it. They're currently only available in South Africa and in Namibia. And you'll also have various exercises to prepare your learners for your final exam. And yeah, that is then, in a nutshell, the basics of your compound time signature grouping rules.